make a Footloose, I kind of learned what it was like to make something that treads on people's beloved affection for a movie. And I think there was like a couple of days where I kind of uh, suffered a little bit of like the possibility of letting a bunch of people down, people that I would like to say that I share their same love of the original. And so I eventually had to put that down. I learned on Footloose that you have to put it down. However, there were, once I did that, there were greater concerns that then came up, which is kind of tone, like how I can tap into that John Landis world of the late mid 80s through kind of early 90s, but do it in a way that audiences in 2021 will appreciate and relate to, because comedy has changed over the years, and it's not as simple as just saying that, oh, we live in a more PC time. It's different than that. There's some things on the spectrum of comedy that may have worked back then that may not work today. And so a lot of that was being somewhat of a guard as to, okay, well, let's try that, and let's do a version where it's maybe even a little bit more goosed, and then let's do one that's maybe a little bit more grounded, and then let's see how it works in the tapestry of the whole movie. And to me, I found that as a director, that's what I was doing on the day a lot. It wasn't just me that was worried about the movie. The cast, both the people who were in the original movie as well as the new people, especially, wanted to do right by the sequel, and at the same time live in the world of the original that we all know and love so much.
Well, kudos to you, because that's a needle, and you threaded it.
Oh, thank you. It's it comes from a place of love, absolutely. But I whenever I would get lost, I would remind myself that this is an opportunity to see Eddie and Arsenio into beloved characters, and I was very confident that the world needed to see them again. I remember seeing them together at a screening of Dolomite Is My Name, and watching people in the audience of this particular screening see them in like the front row as buddies watching Dolomite, and the way everybody was like whispering to each other, I was like, man, we got to get these two back up on the screen again,
Yeah.
And as Akeem and Semi.
That first shot when the two of them were together, I got the chills, that's not what I expected to be the response, but man, it's just deep inside all of us. We just love those two together. First of all, you mentioned Eddie Murphy and Dolomite. What's it like working with him, and coming to America, as with Dolomite, is such a baby of his, and then how collaborative of him did you find him, and what was he like as kind of a cohort in these endeavors?
Well, I mean, I think that it first starts with the script. I'm delighted to say he's old school. If it's not working on the page, then it's not going to work. And I think there's a misconception that, Eddie can just wing everything, which he totally can, but he's concerned with story, and he wants to make sure that it's meaningful as well as funny. And so there was a good amount of time spent on making sure that the script was right. And I'll never forget, there was this one day that I was supposed to go over to his house. It was after, Kenya had done a draft or two, and then I had done a draft, and it kind of went back and forth. And I went over to his house, and he shook my hand, and he was like, "Oh, we're ready, man. We're ready. That script is really ready to go." And he was excited. And there, it was a night I'll never forget, because he was invested. He was ready to do it. Arsenio came over, and I just saw the two of them laugh like old friends, telling stories from the first movie. And I just thought to myself, like, oh, this is it, man. I mean, it's not going to get better than this. Enjoy it, because it's going to get harder. There's going to be some trials and tribulations, as is with any production. But right now, you're sitting here with two of your your high school idols, just
Right.
telling the behind the scenes stories of the original movie, and you're about to go have fun with them for the rest of the year. So it was a great day. But yeah, I mean, I really respect his process, and I try to bring a lot of comfort and collaboration onto my sets, and I just want to create an environment where everybody can do their best work.
Um, as is the case with any sequel, they always say, it needs to be bigger, it needs to have more characters. This world needs to expand no matter what you do. The cast is greatly expanded. I mean, and every single person is just check, check, check. What was Tracy Morgan, Leslie Jones, the others that brought in? How did they gel into this cast that's had 30 years to ferment as one?
Well, I mean, I think that especially with Tracy, you're dealing with a person who is very, I mean, he can get emotional with how much Eddie Murphy, both as a man and as a performer, has meant to him, and to be a part of Coming to America was a follow-up, as a dream come true for someone like Tracy. So every day with him was, and for other reasons, after his accident, every day is a gift
Right.
I always knew when Tracy was coming to set, because I'd begin to hear some old school hip hop, and Tracy would come in and he had this guy, and this guy's job was just to hold the boom box, and for a good 5 minutes everybody was kind of just jamming for a little bit, and then we'd get to work. Leslie, I think, did a fantastic job in the movie, because not only is she funny, but she kind of brought something that I wasn't really keeping my eye on in the writing process, which is you genuinely feel like she's a caring and loving mother. And she brings to Zamunda, and especially more to the royal stuffiness, this attitude of inclusion and safety. It seems like, she had a baby with King of King, but that doesn't mean she can't still be really great friends with his queen, and his wife, and there's some bit of absurdity to that until suddenly you see it, and then you're like, oh, we need a little bit more of that, we just need a little bit more acceptance that things may not be the way you intended. That doesn't mean it's going to be bad, and there was something that was kind of delightful about it. She could maybe say things that were inappropriate, but it never came off ugly. It came off rather delightful and innocent, and so it and really with Wesley, it's just a matter of me just saying, as just a fan of his work, hey, I'm gonna just sit over here at the monitor and watch whatever you bring, boss. And I'm gonna, don't feel like you gotta, keep your pedal off the gas. Let's see whatever you bring, buddy. and he's so great.
That walk he does when he enters a room. I mean, was that all him?
It's all him. It's all him. I told him early on, I said, your soldiers don't have as much money, but I think they've got rhythm. And I said, and I think that I want to do something where your soldiers kind of are like, almost like, collegiate step dancers,
Yeah.
They're going to accentuate your threats with rhythmical movement. And he liked that idea. And I think it kind of informed, what kind of dictator he would be.
How important, we mentioned the new people and Eddie and Arsenio, how important was it to get some of the original cast members, whether it's John Amos, of course, James Earl Jones, the guys in the barbershop? You had to find some way to get those guys in. How important was that to kind of thread that through this, to kind of tether it to the original?
It was crucial. I'll be honest with you. I don't think the movie would work unless we had, in particular, James Earl Jones and John Amos, because I think that if there's a soul to the sequel, it shares the soul to the original, and that is, it's really a story about fathers and sons, and this movie is not only about fathers and sons, but fathers and daughters. And I, as someone myself who was a teenager when I saw the first movie, and now I'm a dad with two teenagers, the same can be said about Eddie Murphy. I mean, he didn't have 10 kids back when he was making Coming to America. Well, he's got them now. He's a granddad. he's going through he's in a completely different time than he was when he made the first movie. But then again, so is Prince Akeem, and there was a nice theme there to explore that I think was the true benefit of having a movie take place 30 years after the original, as opposed to like just a few years after it.
Now, the first movie, it took place probably a majority in America. Yeah. And I would say that this movie, a majority is in Africa.
Right.
Did that present any kind of challenges to you? I mean, other than set and production design and choreography.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the thing that at least what was exciting to me was the idea of stepping into the culture of Zamunda, both good and bad. I mean, I think that what was so interesting about the first movie is that, Akeem is coming to America, more specifically Queens, and he has this attitude that he loves it all. He loves that they're throwing garbage out their windows. He the things that were wonderful about Queens and awful about Queens, he kind of equally relished in them. And so I looked at Zamunda and going like, oh, how great that we get to just like live here. I mean, and the first movie gave us such a glimpse of the kind of oddities that you can have there with their particular royalty and their particular type of traditions of bathers and wipers and elephants walking around on the premises, completely, with animals living in the wild on the palace grounds, and also, but the biggest one for me was, the idea that we could do music numbers, the idea that we could do like a good old fashioned John Landis, pull out the stops, let's have a little music number, because it was established in the first one that that's what royalty does. You're going to present someone to another person, you bring backup dancers, you bring the whole you get, in the first one, Paul Abdul did the choreography. In our movie, the great Fatima Robinson did the choreography, and it's in like 3 different places in the movie where dance is part of the culture. And so for me, it was fun to do that. The only issue that, and it's not really an issue, but it's something that luckily Paramount stepped up for this movie, is that, we told them, it's like, I know it's a comedy, but try to think of it outside the realm of comedy, because that's how people view the first Coming to America. It's a culturally important movie to so many people. There had not been a movie that looked that expensive back in 1989 with an all black, cast that played so well around the globe. And I was just like, guys, we've had, Black Panther, we've got all these movies where the production value is so high. We have to meet that. We have to be that good and that gorgeous. And especially since we're here in Zamunda and the world has now expanded.
Yeah. Lastly, and really quick, and the time we have, Hustle and Flow just celebrated 15th anniversary. What has been the most surprising thing for you about its resonance?
I guess for me, and it's odd because it came, it came also with Dolomite as my name as well, but I'm still touched that people find it so inspiring. And more important, that artists find it inspiring, where so much of what artists have to do is try to make something when no one's telling them to make anything, and to sit down and either paint that painting or write that book or record that rap track, is hard to do when you're an artist, when you don't have much and you're trying to do a lot with it. And for me, I think that aside from just the great performances of Terrence Howard and Taraji Henson and Anthony Anderson and Ludacris and Taryn Manning, I mean, you just kind of go down the list of all these amazing actors and actresses that were in that movie. But for me, and it's also like a really an apt nod to John Singleton, who did the same, rest his soul. Like, John every day wanted to make movies, and he watched movies and studied movies when he was a young man, and then he sat down when nobody was asking him to, and he wrote Boys in the Hood. And that's kind of what Hustle and Flow is about. And I'm happy that it just keeps on inspiring other artists to do their thing.
Yeah, well, coming to America is a delight, and this was a delight. Thank you, Craig, for your time. All the best for everything in the future, man.
Appreciate it, Joel. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Joel.
Thanks.